There's something we need to talk about, something that the world has kept quiet for too long. You've heard it before. Stay in the light, be positive, let go of the darkness. But what if the darkness you keep running from is exactly where your power lives? What if your shadow energy, the parts of you that scare people, that scare even you, isn't evil at all? What if it's a gift, a colossal, divine, sacred gift disguised as pain, rage, confusion, and chaos? And what if only the dark chosen ones can carry it without being destroyed?
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
I didn't always know this. I spent years trying to purify myself, to be more holy, more spiritual, more light. I meditated in silence, fasted, chanted, prayed. And still, there was something inside me, something too wild, too intense, too raw. I thought it was a flaw. I thought I was broken. But then I stopped trying to fix it. I stopped trying to silence it. And I listened deeply. And what I heard changed everything. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to awaken you. That was my shadow energy speaking. And from that moment on, I knew this wasn't a curse. This was the key. But here's the truth. Most people can't handle their shadow energy. It burns. It shakes. It doesn't ask for permission, it demands truth. And that's why the world calls it evil, because it breaks illusions. It doesn't play nice. It doesn't fit in. It reveals what you've buried. It pulls you into the parts of your soul that religion, society, and even spirituality told you to avoid. But we dark chosen ones, we don't avoid. We descend. We enter the womb of the dark and come back with codes no one else can carry. The shadow isn't random. It's sacred memory. It's ancestral intelligence. It's the part of your soul that remembers who you were before the matrix labeled you. That raw grief, that rage, that madness, it's not weakness, it's data. It's the language of your original self, the version of you that didn't bow down to systems, didn't shrink for safety, didn't dilute your truth. That part of you is still alive. And your shadow is how it speaks to you. Let me ask you something real. When was the last time you let yourself fully feel your darkness, not to fix it, but to understand it? Have you ever screamed into the void and felt your ancestors scream with you? Or wept so deeply that it felt like centuries of pain were exiting your body? That's not just emotion. That's spiritual technology. That's your soul breaking through the programming. And only someone chosen, someone forged in fire, can hold that kind of energy without collapsing. But don't misunderstand me. This isn't about glorifying pain. It's about alchemizing it. The shadow isn't meant to trap you. It's meant to initiate you. It's the doorway to your purpose. Why do you think the most powerful spiritual leaders in history walked through darkness before they awakened? Whether it was the Buddha in the forest, Jesus in the desert, or shamans in the underworld, the pattern is always the same. The descent comes before the crown. And this is where most people stop. Because the descent isn't pretty. It doesn't come with Instagram quotes and incense. It comes with ego death, with nights you think you won't survive, with the dismantling of everything you thought was true. But if you stay, if you breathe through it, feel through it, listen through it, you begin to see something no one else sees. You begin to remember. You remember that your gifts were hidden in your wounds, that your soul chose this chaos because it knew it could handle it, that your shadow isn't here to destroy you, it's here to refine you. Every piece of you that you've been told is too much is actually your power waiting to be claimed. Your intensity, that's unfiltered presence. Your pain, that's your compass. Your rage, that's divine justice waking up inside you. But we've been taught to be afraid of power, especially unapproved power. We've been told to keep it small, to keep it sweet, to keep it digestible. But the dark chosen ones were never meant to be digestible. We're not here to be palatable. We're here to be the frequency that disrupts the illusion. And that requires full embodiment of our shadow energy, not as something to heal, but as something to wield. And when you start wielding it not recklessly, but consciously, everything changes. Your presence becomes a mirror. People see themselves when they're around you, and not everyone will like what they see. You will trigger people not because you're wrong, but because you're real. You will lose people not because you're broken, but because you're whole. You will walk alone not because no one loves you, but because you've stopped betraying yourself to be loved. That's the cost of shadow mastery. But the reward? The reward is freedom. The reward is clarity. The reward is power that doesn't come from ego, but from embodiment. You don't just talk about truth, you radiate it. You don't just understand the system, you see through it. You don't just survive the dark, you become the light that can only be born in the dark. So let me ask you something sacred. What if the parts of you you've been trying to fix are the exact parts that will make you free? What if you stopped judging your shadow and started listening to it? What if your darkness is not just part of your journey, but the very reason you're here? That's what I realized. That's what changed my life. And that's what I'm here to remind you of. You are not broken. You are encoded. And your shadow is not the enemy. It's the teacher, the initiator, the portal. And it's time you honored it like the sacred force it is. If you're still here, it means you're not afraid of the fire anymore. You're not trying to run from your shadow, you're ready to stand inside it. And that's where the real transformation begins. Because once we stop treating our shadow energy like something to be managed or healed, and start treating it like a conscious technology, it becomes a force nothing can touch. Not fear, not doubt, not the matrix itself. But to access that level of power, we need protocols. Not rigid rules, but sacred processes. Ways of grounding the cosmic chaos into embodied purpose. The first protocol is the ritual of witnessing. This is where we stop analyzing the shadow and start observing it. Not with judgment, not with the need to fix, but with presence. True witnessing is not passive, it's alchemical. When you sit in silence with your rage, your fear, your grief, without trying to label it, control it, or escape it, you create a sacred container. And inside that container, the energy transmutes itself. Why? Because shadow is not evil, it's misunderstood energy. Once it's seen fully, it begins to soften. Not because it's weak, but because it's recognized. How do we do this? You sit. You close your eyes. You feel the energy rise. Maybe it's heat in your chest. Maybe it's tension in your throat. You don't name it anxiety, anger, or sadness. You just feel it. You ask it, "What are you here to show me?" And then here's the key: you say, "I'm listening." That's it. No fixing, no spiritual bypassing. Just raw, naked presence. And in that silence, you'll begin to hear things you've never heard before. The voice of your soul, the wisdom of your wounds, the instructions encoded in your pain. The second protocol is the energetic shield of sovereignty. Because once you start activating your shadow power, people will feel it. They'll be drawn to you, triggered by you, confused by you, and sometimes even try to pull you back into the old version of yourself. That's why you need boundaries, not just physical, but energetic. You need to protect your field like it's sacred ground, because it is. Your aura is a temple, and not everyone deserves access. Here's how we do it. Every morning, before you engage with the world, you sit in silence and declare your field. You speak it out loud. "I call all my energy back to me now. I seal my field in absolute sovereignty. Only truth, love, and aligned frequency may enter." You visualize a sphere of dark gold light around you, shadow and light fused into one. This is not a wall to keep people out. It's a filter that keeps distortion out. Because your power is not meant to be drained by projections. It's meant to radiate clarity. You'll notice something when you do this regularly. Certain people will stop calling. Certain opportunities will fall away. That's not loss. That's alignment. And in their place, new connections will appear, people who see you, feel you, get you. People who are ready for the frequency you now carry. These are your soul allies, your mirror warriors. And they will meet you in the truth, not the performance. The third protocol is channeling the shadow into purpose. This is where most people get stuck. They awaken to their shadow. They feel the rage, the grief, the madness, but they don't know what to do with it. And so it festers. But we turn it into motion, into art, into action, into legacy. The key is to ask yourself, what message is hidden inside this pain? What truth does this rage want to speak? What beauty is buried inside this chaos? You take that raw energy and you create. You write, you speak, you build, you teach, you serve, you move. Shadow energy is kinetic, it must be expressed. And when you channel it with intention, it becomes unstoppable. It carries a frequency people can't ignore. It doesn't whisper, it roars. It cuts through noise. It pierces illusion. And it activates others not just because of what you say, but because of who you've become. But to do this, you must stop waiting for permission. You must stop asking, Am I ready? You're not supposed to be ready. You're supposed to be honest. The world doesn't need perfect leaders. It needs real ones, people who have walked through fire and didn't lose their heart. People who can say, I don't have all the answers, but I faced the darkness and I'm still standing, and I'll walk with you as you face yours. And as you walk this path, something strange begins to happen. You start to experience supernatural clarity. Your dreams become messages. Your body becomes a radar. You walk into rooms and feel the energy change. You speak and people stop moving. Not because you're performing, but because your presence is now coded. You are no longer just human. You are a living frequency, a walking initiation, a mirror for truth. But this comes with responsibility. The more power you embody, the more precise you must become. That means radical self-accountability. That means knowing when your shadow is guiding you and when your ego is hijacking it. That means learning the art of spiritual discernment. Can you tell the difference between intuition and old trauma? Between divine madness and ungrounded chaos? Between sacred rage and unresolved hurt? These are the questions that forge mastery. So I ask you now, are you willing to become a guardian of your own power? Are you willing to face not only the world's illusions but your own? Are you willing to be the kind of leader who leads not by control, but by frequency? Because this is where the dark chosen ones rise, not in fame, not in status, but in alignment. We don't chase platforms. We become the platform. We don't wait for the world to change. We change the field by entering it. Our breath becomes prayer. Our presence becomes prophecy. Our life becomes the message. And when we live that way, something miraculous happens. We begin to attract synchronicities that make no sense. The doors open that logic can't explain. People appear at the exact moment they're needed. Opportunities align without effort. Why? Because the universe doesn't respond to effort, it responds to frequency. And when your frequency is forged in shadow and crowned in sovereignty, the universe bows. But it all begins with one choice: to stop running and to start wielding. To stop hiding your shadow and start honoring it. To stop waiting to be saved and start becoming the savior of your own soul. That's what we're here for. That's why we were chosen. Not to escape the matrix, but to recode it from within. This is it, the final chamber. The point where the journey stops being about survival or even transformation and becomes about creation. Because once you've owned your shadow, activated its power, and protected your field, something happens. You become the architect, the builder, the liberator. You stop looking for the path. You become the path. And from this space, the dark chosen one no longer hides, no longer rebels. You lead. But here's the paradox. This leadership doesn't look like leadership. It's not loud. It's not flashy. It's not imposed. It's felt. It's subtle, sovereign, and encoded with frequency that rewires the space around you. You're not trying to change the world from the top down. You're changing it from the inside out. And the blueprint we follow? It's ancient. It's hidden in your bones. It's encrypted in your shadow. The first layer of this sacred architecture is sacrificial truth. This means you don't get to lie to yourself anymore. Not ever. You don't get to pretend you're fine when you're broken. You don't get to play the role of healer or teacher if your soul is still hiding in fear. Shadow leadership starts with ruthless self-honesty. You must be willing to sacrifice every identity, every mask, every performance that makes you digestible to the world but unrecognizable to your soul. Ask yourself, right now, in this moment, what am I pretending not to know about myself? What truth am I avoiding because it would force me to change everything? That question is your entry point. Because the minute you stop avoiding it, your entire energetic blueprint begins to reorganize. You stop leaking power. You stop attracting chaos. You stop living in fragments. You become whole. And wholeness is magnetic. People feel it. They trust it. Not because you told them to, but because your presence carries the weight of truth. The second layer is sacred structure. Most people think freedom means doing whatever you want. But real freedom is built on inner structure, discipline, devotion, ritual. You cannot lead from shadow without scaffolding. Not because the shadow is wild, but because it's deep. And the deeper you go, the more grounded you must become. You need rituals that anchor you, systems that protect your energy, rhythms that keep you sane while you navigate the unseen realms. Here's a practice. Every week, set aside time not for productivity but for spiritual architecture. Ask yourself, what energies am I carrying into this week? What am I building with those energies? What am I feeding with my time, my attention, my thoughts? You're not just managing your life, you're maintaining a temple frequency. That's what leadership from the shadow requires. Not hustle, not control, but conscious architecture of energy. The third layer is silent impact. We've been conditioned to believe that if it's not loud, it's not working. But the deepest impact happens in silence, in presence, in energetic transmission. You walk into a room and the frequency shifts. You don't say a thing and people start healing. You're not teaching, you're being. And your beingness is the medicine. That's sacred leadership. It's not about being in front of people. It's about being ahead in frequency. This doesn't mean you don't speak. It means when you speak, it's coded. Every word is intentional. Every message is an initiation. You're not just sharing information. You're speaking to the soul behind the face. You're activating ancient memory in others without them even realizing what's happening. And that power doesn't come from charisma. It comes from embodied shadow mastery. The fourth layer is legacy through frequency. You're not here to build empires that crumble. You're here to encode frequencies that last beyond time. That means your work, your words, your art, everything you touch must carry your soul signature. It must be infused with the truth you fought for. When you create from your shadow, not from your trauma, but from your transmuted shadow, your creations become multidimensional. They live beyond the algorithm, beyond trends, beyond culture. They become living transmissions. So ask yourself, what am I creating right now that will still vibrate truth 100 years from now? What am I birthing that can't be co-opted, diluted, or forgotten? This is not about ego. It's about service. Because the dark chosen ones are not here to be influencers. We're here to be remembered by the soul of the planet. And that memory is written through frequency, not fame. The fifth layer is the mirror principle. Once you embody shadow sovereignty, your life becomes a mirror. Not a mirror for ego, but for truth. And you must be prepared for what that means. People will project onto you. They'll either see their highest self or their deepest wounds. Some will love you. Some will fear you. Some will want to destroy you. Not because of what you've done, but because your frequency reflects back what they're not ready to face. You must hold that mirror with compassion, but without shrinking. You don't shrink for comfort. You don't deny your power to be light. You stand in the fire. You let people burn if they need to. Because sometimes burning is the only way they'll awaken. And you don't do it with cruelty. You do it with clarity, with fierce love. With the knowing that your role is not to be liked, it's to be true. The final layer is energetic permissioning. This is the secret most won't tell you. Once you've mastered your shadow, you begin giving others energetic permission to rise. Not through force, not through advice, but through existence. You walk into a room, and suddenly someone else feels safe to cry. Someone else feels safe to be real. Someone else feels safe to awaken. This is the real work, not changing people, but holding a frequency that makes change inevitable. That's what shadow leaders do. We don't convince, we transmit. We don't push, we resonate. We don't save, we remind people of their own power. That's sacred. That's rare. That's the legacy of a dark chosen one. So now I ask you, with no filter, are you ready to live as the blueprint? Are you ready to be the living transmission of everything you've walked through? Are you ready to stop waiting, stop doubting, and start building from the deepest part of you, the part the world told you to hide? Because this is the moment, not in the future. Not after you're more ready. Now. The moment you say yes to your shadow is the moment your soul starts breathing again. And when your soul breathes, the world shifts. You are not here to be good. You are not here to be liked. You are not here to be safe. You are here to be real, to be divine fire inside human flesh. And the shadow energy that once made you feel broken, it was never your weakness. It was your invitation to remember who you are, to remember why you came, to remember that your path is not meant to look like anyone else's. You are the anomaly, the glitch, the prophecy. And the moment you own that fully, without apology, without fear, without delay, you become unshakable. You become legend. You become the living blueprint for liberation. You are the dark chosen one. And your time is now.